Hey everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Compete, the show about the news, gossip, and tactics of competitive business strategy. I'm your host, Adam McQueen, content and community lead here at Klue. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Hunter Soanes, the guy at Klue that uses Klue, the competitive enablement manager here. Hunter, what's going on, buddy?
Never been better.
Never been better? Why?
Honestly, just having a pretty good week. Yesterday I had a day, you know when you have those days where like you've got your laundry list of things that you have to do and you check off every single item? That was yesterday for me. So I've been having a great week.
I have a whiteboard in my office, which Grayson earmuffs, Shannon, anyone on our marketing team earmuffs, because I know it should be in Notion, but I have a little whiteboard where I like to do my to-do list, and it's just like this little satisfaction. I get to like just strut on over to the other side of the office and just start ticking things off.
Oh, what an incredible feeling to just tick something off of a checklist, especially when it's a physical whiteboard.
I will be honest, I'll have stuff as well. If I really need to pick me up, it'll be like, make the bed. Mm-hmm. Tick. I need some layups. I need some layups to start to get the ball rolling. And then we're off to the races. I'm going to say I'm a little bit, I'm not even going to do the play here. We are airing this probably 2 days after compete week, but we're recording this before. I was going to do a whole play on how tired and exhausted we were. But for folks that are listening, tuning in now, all of the sessions that we did in person on day one of compete week and virtual day two will be on demand, accessible in our community, the Compete Network community. I guess, should I do a thank you to people that came? I'm excited to see people. I don't really know. I'm future, past, and present Adam is all just getting like kind of mixed up.
Yeah, we've kind of got a little bit of a mix of both right here. Well, thank you everybody, and also looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Yes, Compete Week's been a blast. The team's been working super hard at the entire organization. I've been getting to meet with a ton of customers that are speaking at the event. All of the details going into it, like it's no stone has been left unturned, and I just can't wait to have everyone in attendance and have the community kind of be in Vancouver, which I might be biased, but I think it's the best city in the world. So there will also be a webinar in the community happening all around our 360 win-loss product. I believe it will be November 12th. Check the dates, but the links will be in the show notes. If you didn't know, at Compete Week, we launched 360 win-loss, a bunch of new functionality that you've been using within Klue. And our product marketing team and our product team and some customers will be walking through all of the new pieces to our shiny win-loss product. I'm stoked for that too. What's your favorite part of the new win-loss product?
Bring your own interviews. I absolutely love BYOI. I've been using it a lot and testing it. So whenever I run churn or renewal interviews at Klue, I find it's really, really helpful to, keep that connection with the customer. And especially for renewals, like oftentimes I love to understand some of the more like technical nitty gritty things. So being able to incorporate a lot of my subject matter expertise in the types of questions that I ask in those interviews, so helpful, so handy. We also have like our tagging features in there and everything like that. So it makes it super nice for me to be able to do, the big roll up at the end of the quarter and be able to bring that back to everyone. So I love BYOI.
You're not blowing smoke either, because literally before we started rolling, you turned around and showed our new BYOI to walk me through a recent win-loss interview. So he's not lying.
That is true. I feel like there's like, of course we work at Klue, so there's going to be like a bit of a product plug there anyways, but being the compete guy, this is just one of those features where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I needed.
Thank you, product. Anyone else that got this on the roadmap and into the world today. All right, Hunter, should we get into what is brewing in the world of compete?
Let's do it. All right, Adam. So who is winning and losing in the world of business?
So my inbox is getting full right now with a lot of competitive digs between email newsletter platforms. So This happened at the start of October. Essentially, ConvertKit were going through a big new rebrand to now what they're called is Kit. And they did a lot of like the build in public, a lot of build up to this and how they built their rebrand and all of this. It was leading up for about 6 months or so. They do their big launch, big exciting announcement on social, press release, the whole 9 yards. And their competitor Beehiiv jump in on this with what I would say is my favorite targeted rip and replace campaign that I've seen in 2024. We're going to dig into the story, but actually you haven't seen the asset that they launched immediately after ConvertKit's rebrand announcement. So I want your live reaction. Actually, we're going to pull up the response from Beehiiv that I don't know the timestamps, but was within the day that ConvertKit announced their rebrand. Beehiiv dropped this on their CEO's Twitter account, and it got massive reaction. So I kind of want to get your live take to Beehiiv's response.
All right, let's see it. And for context, before coming into this, I had no idea who ConvertKit or Beehiiv was. I live in a different world than Adam in that sense. So this is all brand new to me. Super excited to see this.
This is the story of two platforms that set out on a mission to help creators grow and earn. One spent the last 6 months talking about the rebrand. The other was heads down, shipping new features to help creators grow faster, earn more, and hit send more confidently. So which platform actually prioritized creators? Yeah, we thought so. Thinking about making the switch? Now's your chance. Introducing the Convert to Beehiiv Kit. Free VIP migration with our onboarding team. 6 months free on Beehiiv. $500 boosts credit to grow. Guaranteed premium sponsors each week. Early beta access to new features. Visit beehiiv.com/convert to get started.
That is hilarious. I'm actually stunned right now. There's a few things that stand out there for me. There's the legal made us do this with blurring out ConvertKit, or I guess Kit, their logo. I think that is so funny. Also, I have to say there's a few other things that stand out in here that I really, really like, specifically around the fact that they are throwing a little bit of shade here around the time that their competitor ConvertKit had been spending on the rebrand. But bringing it back to, we've spent the past 6 months investing in product and doing all these like really cool things to benefit the customer. I love that. Anytime that you can, speak about like, hey, we are trying to drive value for our customers. That's where our entire focus is. Big fan of that. And then last, great incentives. Holy smokes. Like all those different items around, hey, if you convert, you get this. I'm assuming that they tested those or at least asked some buyers what their feelings would be around those types of incentives. But wow, hats off to Beehiiv. Great work on this.
It's a great marketing asset, like a public facing marketing asset. And I think a lot of times when we think of rip and replace campaigns, at least traditionally what I've seen amongst product marketing teams, compete teams that have led those, these typically tend to be a bit more behind the scenes or like targeted campaigns. They're not like out in the open. And for context, the CEO dropped this. What I love about Beehiiv is they've built a really strong founder-led brand with their CEO, Tyler Denk. He releases this an hour after the rebrand, by the way. And it gets, I think, close to 1 million impressions. Grayson, what was the impression account on Twitter? Was it almost 700,000? It's something like that. So it's getting mass reach. They're not shying away from calling out, or not calling out, but calling out the competitor they're going after. Actually, fun fact, Mara Conrad's doing a whole session on how to get internal consensus on your competitive tone with different marketing assets at Compete Week, which you can access. But this is a really cool way of being very directly indirect, I would say. And the fun thing is when you see that whole video, the way they kind of do the legal made us not do it, the kind of pacing, the verbiage, even Tyler's post is like, tired of your email company talking about their logo for 6 months, disappointed that they ship updates slower than LA traffic, wish the platform didn't look like it was built in the 90s. Don't worry, we're here to help. Like the message really fits with their brand, which is very punchy, spicy, lack of a better word, Gen Z. It really fits with their brand and they're not really pulling punches. So those are the things that really stood out to me. What I really love too is we've tackled a lot of things around sort of these competitive stories that plan out in the wild. CEOs slinging mud at one another. Oh, your pitch deck was off. Oh, you don't have this feature. Oh, your data sucks. Yada, 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 yada. What I love about this is there's this great marketing message. You know they've been targeted. So their go-to-market team was aligned on like, be ready to hit publish. Let's go. And it's not just sitting at like, hey, we're slinging mud. To your point at the end there's a clear call to action and incentive package that they've really built likely with buyer research, competitive research on where kits, where they may be lagging. I don't know that for a fact, but they have a really clear call to action to actually pull customers away. Whereas a lot of the stuff that we've analyzed or seen in the wild on LinkedIn is a lot of mudslinging for, I don't want to say for the sake of mudslinging, but it's a bit of a ego off. And this thing is a lot more strategic, targeted, and it's a killer competitive displacement campaign.
Oh, 100%. And the thing too is a lot of the mudslinging that we've seen in the past too, they're kind of like, there's a lot of grasping at straws there. It's, oh, you're not good at this, or your product doesn't do this or whatever. This is a lot more focused on Beehiiv's value, which I really like, Also, just the name ConvertKit. I know that they've rebranded to Kit now, but convert, like, come on. That was amazing. Just using the word convert /convert to Beehiiv. You can't make this stuff up. It's so good.
I know. It's like a layup, right? As a marketer, I'm just like, oh my. When the penny dropped, or they'd probably been sitting on this forever. Like the moment we have an opportunity to strike, we've got all the messaging. We've got all the headlines down.
Head of marketing was just like, we can't pass up this opportunity.
It is too dang good. And I appreciate as well, like from ConvertKit side, like I think the authenticity of building in public, I mean, this is literally what we're doing here. You're building in public as the guy at Klue using Klue. I think it's a really good way to build an authentic brand, get your customers, your buyers feeling truly in the inner circle of what's happening with your company, with your product. And ConvertKit just, they left this little gap open when they were building in public. And there's something I see with quite a few brands that are doing this now is when you start to build in public, you do have the potential to forget the buyer a little bit. In a lot of their content, a lot of their social launch, it just removed the buyer. And it wasn't in a really malicious way or like too egotistical. You could just spot that little bit of like, here's what we're doing. Here's what we were brainstorming. Here's like showing inside of how we were strategizing our new brand. And that's well and good. But when your competition sees that opportunity to strike and then hammer home with a really dialed message that's buyer centric,
yeah,
you're really in a tough position to kind of clap back really in this spot.
That is so true.
There is actually, Grayson, if you want to pull up, so you saw the URL that was so aptly named, like beehiiv.com/convert. One part from Beehiiv that I think there's some improvements to be made, and I want your take as product marketer, compete guy here that's built competitive comparison pages that you've literally been shipping one the last month or so. When I looked at the actual landing page that they're using here to convert folks to Beehiiv, there's a couple things as you scroll through here, Grayson, that are red flags from my end. One, this feature chart is the first thing folks see, and it is long and windy, and it's the classic, we have everything, and they have a couple gaps that kind of, maybe I'm too cynical at this point, but as a marketer, I'm like, it's just a red flag alert to me. And the other glaring omission when I look at this landing page is the lack of social proof, the lack of validation from folks that have switched as well to from ConvertKit to Beehiiv. So if I was to nitpick, that's something I see from the kind of compete lens of tactical execution that might actually be missing from their campaign.
Yeah, I think personally speaking, there are a lot of challenges with doing this type of feature comparison. And to be totally transparent, we've actually done this at Klue in the past, and it's something that we're trying to move away from, is feature comparisons like this. But the challenge with them is that if you've got a feature comparison like this on your competitive landing page, go to the competitor's website. If they've got a competitive landing page with a feature comparison too, probably looks the exact same. We've got everything.
It's inverse.
They've got some things and some gaps. You can, look at any examples that you want. That's probably what you're going to find. And yeah, I would definitely agree around the social proof there. I think social proof is super, super important. As we've been building out our competitive landing pages at Klue, we actually, we do focus on social proof quite a bit. Some of these actually came from, they got sparked by win-loss interviews. Folks who had been switching over from a competitor, they mentioned XYZ. We're able to now go back to them and say, hey, you touched on some really key points about why you switched here. Can we have a conversation about using some testimonials for the website? So I think that can be another aspect. The last thing that might be missing here, and I haven't looked through this in depth, but being really specific about like, what are those core differentiators that you do? Is it something that's comparative that you do better? Is there something that you have that your competitor literally just doesn't have? And again, is there some validation that your buyers really care about these things? I think that those are some really important things to anchor on when you put together a competitive landing page. A few things that are missing here, but
that's true, actually, because it really opens, even if you look at the opening copy there above the fold, it's the incentives that they mentioned right away, the incentives to switch. But that might not be the key instigator. This is awesome, and they include this in that video of like removing the friction to switch, because we all know that like switching any kind of software or platform is just kind of fraught with potential friction. And so a key to a strong rip and replace is to have this in place to give the customer like full confidence that they could switch without feeling all of those pains. But to your point, even when they mentioned we are buyer-centric, shipping all these things, this is where you get specific. You don't have to get very specific in that camp ad campaign, like the way they went there about themselves, we're buyer-centric. That message gets across, but as people get down funnel, this is where you need to actually have the proof points specifically, in my opinion, too.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree.
Overall, this was honestly one of my favorite competitive campaigns I've seen, though. Overall, the way that they tapped into their founder brand, the way they kind of really had this tight message, it feels on brand to them, makes them stand out, and it doesn't feel like they're just dumping on a competitor for the sake of dumping on a competitor to puff out their chest on social, externally. So love that. Shout out our old Compete guy, Brandon, for actually sourcing this story. He hit me into DMs about this, and then Nico, who runs our newsletter, Coffee and Compete newsletter too, make sure you subscribe, had a great write-up on this a couple of editions ago. So I wanted to get your take on this and jump in on all this story. So shout out to you, Beehiiv, golf club.
And shout out Brandon, shout out Nico. Quick question for you.
What's up?
How did Kit respond in the end?
You know what? I tried my hardest to find different pieces here. I couldn't find any specific direct response to Beehiiv. Folks that are listening, maybe you found something, share it with me. But I really wanted to find how did ConvertKit respond to the response. And I don't want to say they didn't, but I couldn't find anything in which they did that. So maybe it was just to ignore the competition altogether was sort of their approach. So,
well, Kit, it's on you now. Let's see how you respond. Let's see how this plays out in the end. There are 12 innings. I'm not a baseball guy. I have no idea. Maybe there's more.
There's so many. There's less. There's less.
There's less? Okay.
For our next segment, Hunter and sports. You know what?
Hunter here for baseball.
Tell me who are in the World Series right now.
What's the World Series? No, I'm totally kidding. I know that the World Series is basketball.
I'm done with you. Let's get into some content that we know Hunter knows a thing or two about, because it's his dang job. Hunter, what's going on in your world right now? What are you working on?
Well, apart from checking off all the things on my to-do list, I have been in the process of rebuilding our win-loss program over the course of maybe the past 2 months now. And actually, I guess when this comes out, this will have been after my presentation, but I'm making a presentation at Compete Week around distributing win-loss insights. And so over the past little while, I've basically been putting together the finishing touches on this new program for distributing all of our win-loss insights, our renewal insights, and our churn insights. So we have essentially finally got to the point where we have tapped into each of the 4 different ways that we distribute insights. So the first is self-serve hub, which we've created in Klue. The second is our win-loss committee, and we had our first win-loss committee meeting just the other day. Third is our functional readouts, where we're basically bringing win-loss insights and key findings to our sales team, CS, product, and the last is the executive summary. But it was last week when we had our first win-loss committee meeting. And this was basically the opportunity for us to bring together a bunch of different functional leaders from around the business, talk about some of our win-loss findings from the previous month, and then kind of come up with some ideas on how we want to take these insights, put them into action, make some make some movements. And so that's basically what I've been working on over the past little while.
So I think the big thing here, and with your presentation, because I've seen the presentation, it's awesome, is all about making sure all of the win-loss research you do and all of the buyer insights that you collect don't just get left in a doc that for a couple eyes only to see. If you build a doc and it doesn't get read, did it ever get made? I think that's how the saying goes. And so your whole focus with this win-loss committee and all of those 4 steps you mentioned is driving action through what you collect.
Yeah.
So I'm curious let's just get specific here because win-loss committee is top of mind for you.
Sure.
What were some of the actions, high level, that you were looking to achieve with this win-loss committee? Share a story or two of what went down. What were some of the things that you dug into, and how do you get it from just kind of oftentimes like this is an interesting talk, this is cool, and then everyone goes back to the day-to-day. How do you make sure there's steps to be taken then?
Okay, so here, I'll talk about the good and the bad, because this first win-loss committee meeting, it went well. There were opportunities for improvement that we're going to carry on into our next one. So I'll talk about what went well and then some of those areas for improvement, what we're going to do to change. So basically, the way that we set this up is I took our win-loss findings from the past month, put them into a win-loss committee meeting package, which is basically, we've got our core compete product and we have our win-loss product. What were the findings from wins and losses with compete? What were the findings from the wins and losses with our win-loss product? And we essentially broke each one down into win reasons, loss reasons, evaluation criteria, positive product feedback, constructive product feedback, and competitive insights. So those are kind of the areas that we covered. So I put together this package. The package went into key clips, like buyer clips from the actual interviews, some of the key quotes, and then basically just like 3 bullets on findings for each of those different topics. So I put this together, sent it out to the win-loss committee a week in advance, asked them to review it. And then we came into the meeting. And the way that we had set this up is we basically wanted to spend some time talking about what are the implications of these insights to sales? What are the implications of these insights to CS? What were the implications to product? And what were the implications to our win-loss research and marketing as well? Sorry. So those are some of the different areas that we focused on. The challenge that I found is, especially like right now, we've got a bunch of our SLT at SLT offsite. It was a busy week. And I think generally when you're putting together packages like this, it's difficult to expect everyone to review everything super in depth, have their notes ready to go and everything like that. SLT, super, strapped for time. A lot were able to review it, but then trying to like parse through, what did I read? What were my notes? Sometimes that can be challenging, right? So the learning for the next win-loss committee meeting is I'm actually going to show up to that meeting, and I've already put together some packages and some templates around this, ready to basically present key findings from our win-loss interviews so that everything is super fresh. I don't have to worry about someone having, reviewed the content a week ago and then trying to recall what they read and what they listened to. We're going to review everything in the meeting, key clips, key findings. We can come up with our action items. Now that was something that actually worked pretty well in our last meeting. We just came up with, what are the actions that we're going to take as a team based on some of these findings. And we just listed out 3. For sales, this is what we're going to do. For marketing, this is what we're going to do. And then from a pricing and product perspective, these are some areas that we want to dive deeper into for our next batch of win-loss interviews. So there were some great findings, some great learnings from this first experience. And yeah, it was positive overall.
I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, but what are some of the ways you used Klue through this process?
So going in and being able to filter down to like, okay, what were all of the interviews that we've conducted over the past month? Obviously super important. And most of the interviews that we were reviewing here were conducted by our research director at Klue. And so, of course, we have to leverage those insights, then being able to pull everything into Klue, look through what are the different themes that are showing up, what are the key quotes that our report writer and our data analyst have pulled out. I like to go sort of a slightly different direction than some other win-loss programs. I'm huge on video. I think that anecdotes and key clips from those videos are super important. So what I was able to do is basically go into the report that shows up in Klue. What's the key quote? Okay, sweet. Find that key quote. I use Descript to cut up my my videos and do some editing there. So I literally just took the quote, Command F in Descript, chop it up, and then I put that back into Klue. And so now I can host all of this content in Klue. That's where some of these presentations can be made. It makes it really easy for me to like host videos, push quotes directly from our win-loss module into our battle cards where I can host some of these videos. So lots of different ways that I'm using Klue, both from the win-loss perspective, but also from the battle card hosting perspective. So there's a lot of that.
Yeah, and discerning some of the themes too, right?
Yeah.
Across like such a large subset of interviews too.
Yeah. And that's sort of another thing where, I'm starting to lean more into doing things like renewal interviews and churn interviews.
Mm-hmm.
These are areas where I really like running these interviews on my own. And so that's a huge area where I'm using Klue, because I'm using our bring your own interview feature, which we are launching next week / last week, whenever you're seeing this. Keep on it. And so that's where I can essentially upload our own interviews, breaks it down into the full transcript. I can tag the transcript. It tells me what the win-loss reasons were. It's super, super handy for being able to also classify themes and be able to present those to leadership. So starting to use that feature more, super handy. It's one of my favorite features in Klue, actually.
Before we wrap here, one question too in terms of like, because you mentioned this, your presentation, you get into it a lot more. All of these 4 different methods of driving action or from your insights, they're all very different, but we're on committee right now. What does that look like to put together an action list? Are you recommending? Is it upon the committee and the different functional leaders to say, hey, here's what this is the actions we're gonna take as a sales team, as a marketing team? Like, what does that balance look like, and how specific are those action items?
They're pretty specific. Usually it's there's like kind of like a core theme, and then sort of like step by step, these are some things that we need to do in order to achieve XYZ theme. I think that there were some learnings there as well from our first committee meeting. So blocking more time to come up with those action items and looking at like, okay, what are our targets? What are our timelines and things like that? That could have been helpful. So going into the next one, that's something that we're going to block more time off for. But then, yeah, like how do we come up with these? What we did in the last meeting was essentially like, I just opened it up to the floor. Like, okay, we've gone through a lot of these insights. We've had good discussion. What do we think are the opportunities? What are like the 2 or 3 things that we can do before the next committee meeting? And so that actually opened up more of a discussion. And I was just there jotting down notes, thinking through, okay, what can we do from here? Reviewed the actions and just confirmed them with the rest of the group and carried on.
Nice. I think it's important too, there's like, what will we not do as well as what we will do? Like, what are the things that we won't action on? Or like, I think it's easy to just make a list of everything we will do, but I think what you're grounding them in is like, here's the reality of what the buyers are saying, and now let's list out the things we can do, should do, would do, and here are the things we're actually gonna do.
Yeah, and a bit of that came up too, and that's partly why, like, in that meeting, I'm constantly doing this, like, okay, so this is what we're agreeing on. Is this, how do we feel about this? I'm doing a couple of those like pulse checks too, because there were some instances there where, I'd basically jotted down, hey, is this something that we want to dig deeper into? Is this an action that we want to take? And one of our SLT members was like, we would be biting off way more than we can chew if we, try and do this now. Let's focus on some other things first. So
I love it. Hunter, thanks for sharing again what's going on in your world and hopping on, breaking down another competitive story in the wild. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Again, all of the Compete Week sessions are in the Compete Network community. Links here. You can tune into all of them on demand. Thank you, everyone that came to Compete Week, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in on YouTube as well. If you are on audio, this is the YouTube episode. Please subscribe as well to see Hunter and I's pearly whites. So thanks, everyone, and we'll catch you in 2 Thursdays' time.
2 Thursdays' time.